What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 102 of the Finale Podcast. Today I'm joined by Tyler to talk some NFL football as we go into week 11 of the season. Tyler, how's it going?
Oh, pretty good, man. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good, can't lie. You know, got a couple of topics to talk about here, but before we get into that, let's go ahead with the biggest takeaway from week 10 for you.
All right, yeah, mine's a little unconventional. For a team that's 4-6, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and again, weird pick considering they lost the last 2 weeks. However, they barely lost last week to the 49ers, barely lost in overtime a couple weeks ago to the Chiefs. Not to mention all of this is without, their top two receivers, in Godwin and Evans. So it's weird to pick a 4-6 team as like my biggest like wow this team could be legit, but to not have your top two receivers and have a quarterback like Baker Mayfield, who a couple years ago people were rating him out of the league. I think it's really a testament of what they've been able to do, at least able to make these games competitive all the way to the end. So they have probably the easiest schedule upcoming. They have Giants and the Panthers and the Raiders. So those should be three wins that they're able to capitalize on. They should be getting Mike Evans back soon. Um, and yeah, this team is just weird for a 4-6 team to be my surprise pick, but I could really see them making some noise towards the end of the season here. Especially with this trend of momentum, even in these losses. So I think they carry that over these next few weeks.
Yeah, I'm just looking at their remaining schedule and it does look pretty easy. They already played the Falcons twice. Unfortunately, lost both of those games, but I think,
Mhm.
yeah, if they can just handle their business and win these games. I mean, the Falcons lost last week to the Saints, so I think they just got to keep, going at it and trying to get a grasp of that division because I feel like that's the only way for them to make the playoffs. But you do make a good point. They are very competitive in these games. It's really just unable to finish it, but yeah, what they've been able to do for the last couple of years
Hmm.
has definitely been impressive.
I didn't
Um,
even mention they beat the Commanders and the Lions earlier this year too. So
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, how are they the only team that beat the Lions is beyond me.
yeah,
But I mean, yeah,
it was week two, but still.
true, true. But hey, I think it was at Ford Field too. So
Mhm.
that is pretty impressive. But for me, I will say off of the Vikings game, just watching that was pretty difficult to watch. Although the Vikings won, I would say that my biggest takeaway is that JJ McCarthy is going to be the quarterback of the Vikings next year. That was my
Yeah,
biggest takeaway.
yeah,
And
that made the decision a lot easier. Not a
it's
bash on
just
Darnold, but
it's not the best Darnold. It's really just like Darnold was playing at a really high level. I mean, obviously it was early in the season, but there's definitely talks about like, is this guy gonna be, MVP because of the way he was playing. He was the leader in touchdown
oh
passes
yeah,
and was at a really high level. But I just feel like the inconsistency has come and it's kind of reminding me of what's happened last year when the Vikings had, that the hot run from Josh Dobbs, and then it just kind of like hit rock bottom. I do think Sam Darnold can bounce back from this and find ways to improve. I feel like the
hmm
offense is just it's made last week. I feel like we were really good in terms of just moving the ball down the field. I wasn't worried about that, but just the way they were finishing drives are just pretty disappointing, and kept the Jaguars in the game till the end. So I feel like those are things you can correct, but um, there was actually conversations about like, or just belief that Sam Darnold could be a guy that could get, a bigger contract extension from the Vikings and things like that. But I feel like
oh yeah,
he has to find that level again if that's even going to be a conversation at this point because of the way he's played for the, last few weeks, I want to say. So, yeah, that was my biggest takeaway. No shade really to him, but it's just like he's got to play at a really high level if the Vikings are not going to, allow their high draft pick and JJ McCarthy to take over next year. Although he did suffer an injury setback, we'll see if he can stay healthy with, his rehab and everything like that. But I think it just
yeah,
puts him in a good position to play next year.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, here's some numbers I came across earlier. And this is just a testament of how good the game plan was for Jacksonville's defense. Darnold, when he's under pressure, when he's being blitzed, he has the number one passer rating in the league at 146.7. But when he's not blitzed, passer rating of 85.6, which is 23rd. And they only blitzed us once in that game. So somebody in that analytics department really had that figured out and dialed in. And unfortunately, I think other teams are going to follow suit. And yeah, I think it's really kind of letting Darnold throw into coverage and, expose his biggest weakness, which seems to be his questionable decision making at times. Um, I think that's kind of been what just about beat us in this last week, kind of letting him beat us.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, he's a quarterback that, does have questionable decision making, but he's also a quarterback that's accurate and, has
Hmm.
confidence in himself and he feels like he can make any throw that, you can think of. And that does come to a detriment at times when, you don't necessarily need to have that. There's been sequences over the last couple of weeks where, few weeks really, where he's had openings, in the flat or just to dump it off to a running back and he's deciding to go over the middle, forcing it. Yeah, we have some good receivers, but it's just like that's not the smartest play in the playbook. I think when we do follow the game plan, um, we'll be just fine. And we have the weapons to make these long drives. I think last week was one of the longest drives of the season for the Vikings, and just got impatient at the end there, and forced some mistakes. But I feel like overall, just yeah, I think you gotta avoid those situations. Just play smart football and he was doing that at first, so I think he can get back to that. But yeah, it's just something that's going to hurt the Vikings' chances, especially with the way these other teams are playing in the NFC, specifically the Lions in your own division. Like, can't afford to have those mistakes, long term. Because I mean, like the Vikings' defense has been playing at a very high level, and the offense is more than capable of complementing them. And right now, they're not able to. And like that was, I feel like very disappointing performance overall last week. Like Justin Jefferson wasn't nearly, good enough. I don't think that's all on him, but I mean, like he was mentioning it in the press conferences this week or the interviews this week where he was saying like, yeah, I mean, we can't look at how other teams are playing defense in film. Like they're always going to play different when they play against us because of the weapons we have. And I think that just requires the Vikings offense to be a lot more patient and not rushing the ball down the field because they're not going to allow you to hit them over the top with these big, deep plays that the Vikings have found success with earlier in the year. So I think you just have to
Mhm.
learn and adjust to what's happening. But I mean, there's so many weapons on the Vikings offense. You just shouldn't be trying to make the home run play every time. But yeah,
Especially now with Hawkinson back and Josh Oliver has really kind of emerged as a solid option. So
100%. Yeah.
we really do have all the weapons to just, have um a nice solid drive down the field and to just capitalize on good smart football. And we don't need to just go for that home run play every time. And like, it's one of those situations where it's tough because I mean we have so many big play weapons in Jefferson and with Jordan Addison, even, Naylor sometimes. Um, that, it feels like we should look for that big play often, but as we saw in this last game, like you were mentioning, we had such a great drive down the field that ended in just a stupid forced pass that was just unnecessary in the situation. So I think cleaning up those mistakes and just learning to adapt to how the defense is adapting to us, um, I think we'll be just fine. Because yeah, I mean, our defense played incredible. Mac Jones, 2 picks, 111 yards, held them to like 56 team rushing yards. I mean, they did everything we could ask of them, but they're also not going to play that great every game either. So
Yeah.
offense really needs to come alive and capitalize, especially on those situations when we get the forced turnover and we have the momentum on our side. So
Yeah, for sure, man. And we'll see what they do this week. They got the Titans. It's another game that they should win, but I could see it also being close if they just make the same mistakes again and again. But hopefully that's not the case and they figure it out. But let's get into these topics, man. So starting off, the Colts. renaming Anthony Richardson their starting quarterback. You know, 2 weeks without him,
Hmm.
they went 0-2. Offense was just pretty inconsistent. Um, they made those decisions just based off, what was gonna give them the best chance to win, and didn't get any wins in those situations. So they go back to their, franchise guy and give him another chance at it. So kind of, what do you think? Okay, I guess what do you think of this whole sequence of like, benching him and kind of bringing him back in and everything that's played out to this point?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously talked about it last episode when the last time we got the news that he was being benched, and
Yeah.
we kind of talked about how the league is, dealing with these young quarterbacks, and I think this move makes sense given the situation. Like we said, it makes sense to roll with Anthony Richardson, unless he explicitly says he doesn't want to play. Like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to go with 40-year-old Joe Flacco as your guy. So, it makes sense to go back to Anthony Richardson. Um, I think these last couple of weeks, I mean, I guess we'll see coming up here, but I'd assume these last couple of weeks have really just been to kind of regroup, calm him down a bit, calm his nerves, maybe take the pressure off of him a little bit. Like, hey, we don't need you to go out there and win us the Super Bowl right now. Focus on developing, focus on, being that player we need you to be. Um, and especially, losing these last 2 weeks, I think that kind of solidified they're not necessarily a contender. Um, so I think bringing Anthony Richardson back in this situation going into finish the rest of the year makes a lot of sense. Um, Hopefully he plays better than we saw last time we saw him out there. Because I don't know what they'll do if he looks similar to that the rest of the year. It'll be a very interesting offseason for them. But I predicting that what we will see, the more likely scenario is we'll see Anthony Richardson, calm down a little bit, make some better decisions, make some better plays, and hopefully start to look more like the guy that everyone's hoping that he will be.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, we definitely talked about it in depth. I feel like Anthony Richardson, you know, regardless of whether you feel like he gives you the best chance to win, on Sundays, I think he deserves a shot and of course needs to be held accountable when he's not playing well. And I feel like that's what the Colts really decided. He wasn't playing well, wasn't really advancing the offense, and decided to go
Mhm.
in a different direction. So I get it from that perspective. I think he definitely learned a lot, I would say, from what it seems like and what the coach has been saying from these last couple of weeks not playing. And, he has the time to really just prove himself still. Like it's really only his second year. He can come in and, prove doubters wrong and just show that he is the guy that, like you said, we all thought he could be. Definitely a quarterback that's has a lot of raw talent and has got to put that all together and not make as many poor decisions and put his team in better positions to, win games and, maximize the offensive firepower. But I feel like, yeah, he's a talented quarterback, but it's just he needs the proper guidance and the proper situation to put it all together. So I get it from both sides of like, wanna, just prioritize the quarterback's development, but also, keep him kind of disciplined there, keep him accountable. And, when he's not playing well, you gotta pull him. I think, looking back on it when we talked about the Bryce Young situation and, that whole thing was kind of like a similar conversation. But I feel like he's actually improved because of that situation and being on the bench and Andy Dalton took over, and then now he's back in there, and he played well, and he's been showing it recently, specifically last week against the Giants. So it can be the same sort of situation. I mean, Joe Flacco is a great veteran quarterback to learn from, so hopefully that just goes in his favor, and he's able to really improve and build on some of the things that he is very successful at.
Absolutely.
But but yeah, next topic we've got is the Bears. They fired their offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. The Bears' offense has just been inconsistent this year, and of course have been,
The
talked
last
about a
20
lot.
years.
Yeah, talked about a lot in the offseason. with all the weapons they acquired and everything with the Caleb Williams.
Hmm.
And it just hasn't necessarily materialized. I think Keenan Allen came out and said that, Waldron was just too nice and, whatever that means. I didn't really look too deep into it, but basically just it wasn't the right fit. They're one of the worst offenses in the league right now. And they've
Hmm.
got to make some changes to maximize their season. And, they were at a pretty good spot. But I think, losing 19-3 it was to the Patriots last week was just like probably just, a little bit too unacceptable. Gotta make a decision after that. And I think it's the right decision. You've got so many weapons. You want to, maximize all of them. DeAndre Swift, Caleb Williams has been up and down. Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze has been all right, but just overall, just DJ Moore and everything. I think you can get more out of that group, and Cole Kmet, of course. And
Hmm.
yeah, being one of the worst offenses in the league, I think that's just it's pretty simple what you have to do when it comes to firing a guy. You never want to see that, but I mean, I think that was just a decision that was made for them already. But what do you think that the Bears offense will look like after this decision now that they've decided to let go of their offensive coordinator?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure, what how much of a change we'll see right away. Obviously, you have a rookie quarterback leading the way, and not that all the blame is on him. Obviously, this offense is underperformed in all aspects, like you were mentioning, but I think it still relies on what you can get out of him as your leader. Um, and he's definitely improved throughout the year, but um, if he's not performing at the highest level, you're not going to get the most out of these other guys either. I do think the move makes a lot of sense, especially considering, like you said, 19-3 against the Patriots last week, and then what, 29-9 against the Cardinals the week before. Like just pretty abysmal offensive performances against some not great defenses. So definitely makes a lot of sense to do this move. He clearly wasn't getting the most out of all of his weapons. Um, but yeah, I mean, we'll see the rest of this. We'll see what happens the rest of this year because they have the Packers, then they have us Vikings, and they have the Bears, or I mean, then they have the Lions, and they have the 49ers. So going up against some actual challenges, not that, the Cardinals and the Patriots aren't, but it'll be more dependent, I think, on Caleb Williams and what he's able to do against these defenses than anything else here. So I do think the move was necessary, though.
Yeah, and I mean they've had some good moments. I mean, they were, you know, seconds away from beating the Commanders. I mean, they've put
Hmm.
together some decent football. I'm not sure what their record is right now, but they're hovering around 500, or they were, recently. I think. Okay, so now they're 4-5. Yeah, so I think, yeah, that's just part of the inconsistency, and they've made strides in certain areas, but um, yeah, just it was a no-brainer, I would say, to make that decision, and to kind of further explain what Keenan Allen meant by saying he was too nice when talking about the offensive coordinator. He said exactly. I would say just probably he was too nice of a guy. I think during OTA's training camp, he kind of fell into a trap of letting things go, not holding people accountable. Obviously, those things lead to a slippery slope. So, yeah, that's not what you want to see. That doesn't seem like the
No.
sort of thing you want to see out of a coach. I feel like this is a young team and they've got a lot of noise and outside noise, especially with expectations. So I think it's very easy to fall into a trap like, giving into that and feel like you've already arrived. But this is a Bears team that hasn't made the playoffs in what, like 6 years. I mean, this whole tenure, it's just been pretty underwhelming under their head coach. So I think overall they've just gotta, get back to the drawing board and figure some things out. Their defense is all right, but um even they can make mistakes at times. So I think they just gotta understand that like got a long way to go. They're in a very competitive division, as we know, and
Hmm.
we'll see what these changes, bring. But yeah, they're just a team that's got to find some consistency and maximizing the talent that they do have. Otherwise, they are not gonna, hang with some of these other teams in the NFC, especially in the NFC North. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But upset pick of the week. I got a couple. I'm gonna I'm gonna let you go first because I feel like you'll say one of them. So go ahead.
All right, yeah. I mean, I also had a couple of different directions I could have went here, but decided to go with the Falcons over the
Uh,
Broncos.
yeah,
Um, Broncos are 2-point favorites over the Falcons. I know the Falcons haven't been incredible, but I feel like they've been pretty solid offensively as of late. Um, Kirk Cousins is kind of finding his groove, I feel like. So yeah, I don't know. I think with those odds, I just like Atlanta over Denver in the situation. I don't have a lot of faith in Denver. They're kind of hit or miss for me. So Falcons just seem to have that consistency a little bit more.
for sure. I mean, Falcons probably would have won last week if not for I think a couple of missed kicks from Koo. And then the Broncos, of course, lost at the end there. Blocked field goal against the Chiefs. So
So
tough way to lose.
that was
But
a
I
good game,
think,
though. I mean, credit to
yeah,
them for. I didn't think they would even be in that game, so they put up a fight. But who knows? Maybe they carry that momentum into this week, or maybe the opposite. Maybe they gave it their all and they come out a little flat this week. So
yeah, no, I like that pick. I definitely had them as one of mine. For me, though, I'm gonna say the Chiefs. They're
yeah,
2.5 point underdogs, and they're going against the Bills. They'll be on the road. I just feel like, they don't look the best, but they're undefeated for a reason. And I think this is a game where they can easily just come in and win. Not necessarily, I don't think easily is the right way to put it, but I think they can definitely win this game. The Bills are, of course, a really good team as per usual. But I think just the Chiefs and their ability to just find ways to win games when it really matters, whatever it takes, in even desperate measures like last week blocking a field goal attempt. I just think they're showing again why they are the best team in this league, regardless of, offensive firepower. It's just results. It's a results business, and I think they bring that. So I feel like
absolutely.
they'll definitely be able to, cover in terms of whether they win or not. I don't know, but I think it's going to be a really good game, and definitely would be more optimistic if they were at home. But I think they can win this game for sure. They're capable of going on the road and winning games, so it'll be a good game. But yeah, I'm saying Chiefs 2.5. That's my pick.
Solid.
And then lastly, before we sign out, I know we haven't done an NBA episode, but I wanted to get your thoughts on some of the things that have been going on in the NBA and any takeaways you have from the
Oh
first
man.
few weeks. Yeah.
Well, after watching the Wolves lose to the Trailblazers back to
Yeah.
back, my NBA morale is down here a little bit. I'll be honest. Cat's been lighted up over there in New York. You know, just just all great things. So no, I think the Wolves will turn it around. We have some growing pains. I think we talked about that briefly last time too. How that's always expected with these new teams is there's that adjustment period. So I think throughout the year we'll see the Wolves kind of get it together a little bit more. But completely non-Wolves related, the Cavs have been absolutely incredible to start the year. They've been on fire. So wasn't really on my radar as, teams that could be a legit contender, but I think they've definitely proven that to be the case now. So
Yeah. Cavs have been going crazy. Literally everybody has just been just on fire for them.
mhm.
And it's just impressive right now. I feel like just everything that's changed with them with the head coaching, and I feel like they all just kind of work really well together now, whereas in the past it wasn't always the case. But a lot of
Mhm.
contributing, guys for them, other than Donovan Mitchell, which is a really good sign. They can bring it on any given night. So that's very impressive to watch. I'm a fan of watching them. I mean, I know somebody that
Yeah.
goes to ASU here that's like from Cleveland and talks about it. So I think it's pretty cool just to see what they're doing because, I think I was saying like I feel like the Cavs and their playoff atmosphere, like it's always just like been really cool to watch. So I want to see them find some success without LeBron James. Not in like a hating sort of way, but I just want to see what they would look like, um,
Yeah,
in a playoff setting and actually like competitive this time. Because I feel like the last couple of years, while they have been one of the best teams in the East, when it comes to the playoffs, they just haven't had it. So I want to see that turn around. And so far, it looks pretty pretty good so far this year.
definitely. Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of that the lack of playoff success came with just inexperience in that roster. So you have a few years of experience under their belts playing together. So they look like the best team in the league. They have the best record in the league. Yeah, I really could see them making some serious noise in the playoffs this year and possibly making that finals run. So
I wanted to ask you, like, so I was watching the podcast yesterday of with Dante DiVincenzo and
mhm.
Duncan Robinson, and they were talking about like, they don't know if OKC can, win a championship yet because they haven't gone through enough heartbreak or failure, and that, leads you to that point of, winning. So do you think that's a real thing, or what's your breakdown on that?
I think that's a real thing when you have teams that are ready to win. I think in the past, when you have a team, if you had a team like that, this Young Thunder team going up against, that Warriors team, then absolutely they have no chance. But I just don't really think we have that anymore. The Nuggets have taken a step back. I mean, they're 7-3, but they haven't looked like the same Nuggets team that we've seen in the past. You know, Bucks are kind of down a little bit. Celtics are still playing great, but not quite the same Celtics team maybe as last year. At least they don't seem like they're right out the gate. So I think this year, and same reason why the Cavs could have a legit chance, is I just feel like there's no clear team that like, yeah, I would take them over anybody right now. So I think with that being said, it pretty much is going to go to whichever team can remain the hottest throughout the year, and that could very easily be this Thunder team.
Yeah, for sure. I think they obviously went through it for the first time last year as a group. So I think that's pretty much enough to propel them to the next step. But yeah, I think just thinking about that, it does have some validity because we've seen Dallas last year. I think they've had Western Conference Finals in the past, and I think they kind of knew what it took to really win as a group, especially Luca being one of the only guys that was there from when they did go to the conference finals a few years ago. And I think he kind of really showed the difference of, mentality and demeanor in that Timberwolves series of what it takes to go to that next level, whereas the Timberwolves did kind of show their bit of inexperience. So I think experience does matter in that regard, but then there are teams that just really do catch fire and then they can just go on runs like the Hawks a few years ago or the Pacers last year. So it's
Mhm.
really, like you mentioned, the balance of just like who catches fire and then who really, understands what it takes to win at a playoff level because that's completely different basketball. But
Definitely.
my takeaways. I'll start with the Timberwolves. Yeah, that's just losing back to back to the Portland Trailblazers is very disappointing. I think it happened a couple of years ago as well, and it's just like one of those eye opener sort of things where it's like, okay, we're not as good as we thought we were. And you mentioned
Right.
like there are going to be some adjustments in a sort of a period of time where you just got to get acclimated with everyone and everything because now responsibilities change. It's not just adjustments for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. It's also everybody else who, we're used to playing with Karl Anthony Towns. So,
Yeah.
all these new
All the
roles
way
and
down to the
everything,
coaching staff.
100%. So all these things we got to figure out. And I think right now, yeah, they're just simply not good. At a 500 team, that's below expectations of what we've, become accustomed to. But I think they can definitely turn it around. It's just the reality is right now they're not the team that, we thought they could be and the team that they were last year. But moving away from that, I think the Warriors have been pretty surprising, 9-2. I definitely picked them as a non-playoff team going into the year just because of losing Klay Thompson, and I think they just had a lack of firepower on their team. But overall, I mean, they've been pretty good. Curry's kind of continued his hot streak going back to the Olympics, and everybody else has been showing up and playing at a really high level as well. The Suns have looked good under Mike Budenholzer. Tyus Jones coming in there seems to have really helped. Um, let's see who else we've got here that looks good. Eastern Conference, I feel like you can just clearly see if you look at the Eastern Conference standings, the difference between the top two and then everybody else. Everybody else is hovering around 500, and the Cavs and Celtics are just like distancing themselves right now. We'll see if that's the case for the whole year. But yeah, you mentioned the Knicks earlier with Cat. I think Cat's been amazing. He had like almost 50 the other night. They just got to
Yeah.
figure it out when it comes to like playing with each other and how that's going to look like, and then defensively as well, kind of maintaining or rebuilding that identity that they had last year. I know that they lost a big piece in Hartenstein as well, so um,
Mhm.
they've got to kind of figure some things out on that side of the ball. Um, what are these other teams? Other teams. Yeah, let's talk about the Bucks. I mean, that's pretty crazy right now. Like, what's going on with them? They almost got 60 from Giannis the other game. He had 59, and they lost. Or they nearly lost. If it wasn't for Ron Holland missing two free throws at the end there to put it into overtime, it's just like that's pretty disappointing what's going on over there, and how they've looked under Doc Rivers. I mean, it all goes back, I would say, to that trade and moving on from Drew Holiday and just their identity. I don't know if it was the right time to do that or if that was the right direction to go into, but yeah, being 4-8 right now is very underwhelming, and they're being in the same company as teams like the Washington Wizards, that's disappointing, I would say. And some of these other underwhelming teams, because they're not having those expectations of the Bucks, I thought they've also looked good. Like the Hornets, I think have looked good. I think the Pistons have looked pretty good. The Nets have looked good. I've enjoyed watching the Hawks. Um, the Raptors are 2-10, but I think Grady Dick has been, pretty nice to watch. Some of these other teams, yeah. Watching the Trailblazers the last couple of nights, I'm a big fan of Donovan Clingan. I know I'm just
Yeah.
going on a rant right now, but I think Donovan Clingan, like almost having a triple double with blocks. He had 8 blocks that game, the second game of the back-to-back. That's crazy. Um,
That's pretty ridiculous.
yeah, so they've got a few centers over there with Robert Williams and DeAndre Ayton. They've got to really just decide what they're going to go into. Um, and then yeah,
Sixers are
lastly,
back to trust the process.
you said what?
The Sixers are back to trust the
Uh,
process. 2-9.
that is also surprising. But then again, it's just like injuries. But I don't think they should be this bad without Embiid.
They're
Um,
yeah,
that's
they're
that's
they're awful.
That's crazy. But Jared McCain has been going off. So they've got a piece there. But I guess the last thing I'll say is just the Mavericks. I'm just
Hmm.
seeing that they're worse than us at 5-7 as a 12 seed right now. That is temporary, I'll say, but that's also like pretty shocking. But then again, they're a team that just can catch fire. So we'll see if that's going to
Definitely,
be the
yeah.
case this year. They're very talented. So yeah, that's all my takeaways. And anything else you wanted to add, Tyler, before we sign out here?
Uh, Victor Wembanyama is going to be
Oh
MVP
yeah.
in the next 3 years. He's absolutely insane, and he's gonna be the best player in the league for many years at this rate.
Yeah, dude, he's almost like no flaws in his game.
Yeah,
He can do literally anything he wants. I know some people might say he doesn't like use his body enough in the paint, but I think just his shooting ability and everything else he can do, like there are no flaws really to his game. He can do whatever he wants, and obviously defense, like you don't even have to touch on that. Like he will be defensive player of the year
true.
for many years. He's gonna
Yeah,
win that award. So yeah, just crazy to watch him, and I'm hoping it can translate into wins and their team, can hit that main stage and make the playoffs. And that'd be very interesting to watch for sure. But hopefully everything that
there's only two.
happened with Greg Popovich, I hope he's gonna be all right. I heard about
Yeah,
his whole health scare. So hopefully that they can, be successful and rally around that and have a good year this year.
absolutely.
All right, then we are signing out here. Episode 102 of the Finale Podcast. Tyler, appreciate you joining me, and we'll see everybody for next week. Peace.